Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 6th August 2023. My name is T.S.V. Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Haribol TRSV nectar. Hardan 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 Haribol TRSV nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. In this video, in this vlog, is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in all my previous videos. Hence, kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my other videos, including the past ones and those which may become the future ones. So let us continue with the topic for discussion for today's video. Here I would like to recap what we have already learned. When the spirit soul comes out of the spirit spark and gravitates towards the material world, it may get attracted to this material world and try to get in touch with the material world. Irritated by this intrusion by the spirit soul, the material world envelops this spirit soul with 4 layers of material body, just like a shellfish envelops a foreign body particle that falls into its mouth with layers of saliva from its body and converts it into a pearl. Similarly, this material world envelops an ordinary spirit soul with 4 layers of material body that then begins a chain of birth and death for this spirit soul, which has now become what is known as living entity enveloped with 4 layers of material body. When this spirit soul, because of the cocoon of 4 layers of material body, goes through an endless cycle of birth and death, it comes out finally evolved, and then it gets ready to be self-realized, liberated from this endless cycle of birth and death, and finally gets ready to be delivered back to the Godhead. This cycle has been going on for time immemorial to various spirit souls and the material world. In that process, this spirit soul turns into an evolved soul, just like a foreign particle which fell into the mouth of the shellfish and thus got enveloped by the saliva of that shellfish, ends up as an expensive and valuable pearl. In this matter, I would hasten to add that this material world use, uses five basic elements to complete this process of enveloping the spirit soul. They are first ether, second air, third fire, fourth water, and fifth earth. From the first ether comes the second air. From the second air comes the third fire. From the third fire comes the fourth water, and from the fourth water comes the fifth earth. This is the connection or link in a chain of enveloping of various bodies around a spirit soul. Here, the first element, ether, is the foundation for all the five materials. However, this first element, ether, is used to make the first three layers of material body. They are very subtle and they are known as follows. The first layer made up of ether is known as causal body of intelligence and logic. It is the closest to the spirit soul. The second is called the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions. It is in between the three subtle bodies. The third body is called the etheric body of five senses, namely sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. This is the third subtle body. The senses of the etheric body of senses are given an outlet into the material world by the living entity through his or her sense organs, namely two eyes for sight, two ears for hearing, two nostrils for smell, one tongue for taste, and the complete skin and genital for touch. This is the way this material world operates. When the spirit soul gets enveloped by the material world and its chain of infinite birth and death begins, then this very spirit soul, which has now been enveloped by the four layers of material body, becomes what is known as a living entity. As I mentioned before, The etheric element is used to make the three settled bodies, whereas the other four elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth, are used to make the fourth layer of gross body of the living entity. The living entity is identified by his or her gross body in this material world. Air, fire, water, and earth are very much present in the gross body of the living entity all his or her life, right from the moment of birth till the death of the same living entity. However, even after death, it is only earth that remains in the corpse of the dead body. But more about this in our future videos. Today, I would like to talk a lot about the second element called air, which is a part of the gross body of a living entity during his or her lifetime. This air comes out of ether and it is the first among the four elements that that are the main ingredients of that gross body. Air cannot be seen with a naked eye, but its presence can be felt by a living entity and those surrounding him or her. This air keeps circulating inside the gross body of the living entity in various forms. The five major forms are known as prana, that is life thrown, apana, that is another type of oxygen, third, vyana, which provides a link between the first two, that is prana and apana, then samana, that is a neutral air which pervades the whole body of the living entity and helps him or her respire. And fifth is called udana, that is one type of air which can be used to levitate that particular living entity into the air. A type of yoga called the Hatha Yoga is practiced by a living entity to regulate these types of breath and air. Prana, breath, is the first one which passes in and out of the nostril of a living entity all the time when he or she is alive. This prana is controlled by the what is known as Pingala Nadi that starts in the right side of the living entity. It is a long nadi or vein that pervades the body of the living entity. The second apana comes out of a body called the Ida Nadi, which is at the left nostril of the living entity. Pingala controls the right side of the nostril and Ida controls the left side of the nostril of a particular living entity. Vyana or Sushumna Nada or the middle vein controls or joins both these Pingala and Ida Nadi, and they are this Sushumna Nadi is situated in the center of the complete body of the living entity. It begins with his or her top cranium and ends at the bottom near the anus of the living entity. It is a very, very perennial and important vein that runs through the whole body of the living entity and links the right pingala and the left Ida vein of the living entity. Fourth is known as samana. Samana means equal. This is the type of air which pervades the complete body of the living entity, including his veins, his blood, veins, flesh, limbs, torso, head, etc. And it concentrates on the skin of the living entity and it helps him or her respirate during his or her lifetime. The fifth main type of air is known as Udana. This is very much present in the body of a living entity, but it requires what is known as Hatha Yoga, a type of yoga to master this type of air. It is one type which, when mastered, can make a person huge in size, medium in size, or very tiny in size, and at the same time, it may help a person who is in transcendental bliss during meditation to levitate and float in the air of the surrounding in which this person is meditating. This is a fact, and it is quite true that several saints, both Christian as well as Hindu, have practiced knowingly or unknowingly this Hatha Yoga to levitate and float in the air. There was one Mr. Nagendranath Bhaduri, a saint during the last 19th century and the 20th century, and lived in Kolkata, West Bengal, India, who had this habit of levitating in the air during his transcendental meditation. So blissful and divinely excited was he that he could not control levitating in the air during his meditation, it fell upon his follower to control his body lest he would levitate and float out of the world without out of the house without knowing this. To save such an embarrassment, these followers tried to control this saint called Nagendranath Bhaduri. So now I have told you about five types of air which we can regulate within our gross body to achieve several efforts or aims or purposes in life through various kinds of yoga. The main one is called Hatha Yoga. If we are able to regulate this breath, this life throne, and the other types of air, we may increase our lifetime or our age and live in this world for a longer period than we have been living in this world. Hatha yoga is one type of yoga which must be practiced slowly and steadily with due care from a spiritual master. It must not be done in a hurry. Third, we should remember that this Vyana or the type of wear which pervades the whole body and helps the living entity respirate through his or her skin during a lifetime can be regulated by us in such a way that it passes in and out of the pores of the skin of the living entity and makes him or her more active, more healthy, and have a glowing, healthy skin. Complexion does not matter. It is the glow that matters. The darkest person may have a glow thanks to his or her controlling this apana type of air, and a white person may lack it because he or she has not concentrated on controlling this breath. Now, as I had told you that air passes through the two nostrils into the body and comes out of it regularly, hence our breath can be controlled by us through various types of yoga, including what is known as pranayama, that is a simple way of breathing in and out of one nostril while trying to close the other one with our own fingers. This regulation of breath makes our body more capable of controlling our breath, of increasing our life growth and making us healthier and with a glowing skin. Several saints, heretics, monks, rishis, maharishis, etc., including the yogis, practice pranayama to control the air that pervades the body during a lifetime. In yoga, pranayama is the first way of yoga taught to a disciple or student by his or her teacher. In Hindu mythology, pranayama is a regular practice in every religious ceremony that happens in the Hindu mythology. So is the case with all other religions or too who practice their own way of regulating this breath. Now, the best thing is when the two nostrils work together, that is in tandem through the third nadi called Sushumna nadi. It is a spot or a type of event where the the right nostril and the left nostril breathe air in and out of the body continuously and in tandem. Even if this regulation of breath is through breathing air through one nostril and breathing it out of another, it will regulate the breath of that particular living entity. This is one very major part that helps a person regulate his or her fourth layer of material body called the gross body. This is because this gross body is used by the three subtle bodies to give an outlet to the vibrations sent by them to the mass of tissue called brain, which monitors this gross body. The way the brain transmits messages of the subtle body to the gross body, so does that living entity react. One should remember that the mass of tissue called brain is the conduit or link through which this whole living entity and his or her karma and actions in this material world are controlled. Vibrations come from the subtle body received by this very brain, chewed upon, masticated, processed, and the juice thereof is further transmitted to the gross body for reaction by that gross body into the material world. This is the reason why we have several varieties of living entities in this society. It all depends on what vibration from which body this brain of the living entity is accepted and processed by that brain for further percolation into this gross body. That is the reason why we have monks, saints, rishis, maharishis, intellectuals, philosophers, religious priests, Scientists, researchers, doctors, engineers, workers, soldiers, plumbers, carpenters, daily wage laborers, students, athletes, etc. And this is the main reason that there are various kinds of living entities in this society. This all depends on which vibration their brain selects to be chewed upon and the juice further extracted and percolated down the gross body for the reaction of that living entity. The more evolved a living entity is, the further will be the vibrations processed and selected by that brain. Usually, 75% of living entities depend on vibrations from their etheric senses, 20% on the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions, and only 5% vibrations from the causal body of intelligence and logic. More so, we will talk in our future videos to understand this particular aspect far better. However, I would like to remind every viewer that our ultimate aim is to get self realized. Remember our identity as a spirit soul and not a material body. Get further liberated from this repeated births and deaths in this material world, and then as evolved spirit souls get delivered into the supreme personality of Godhead. That is what I wanted to tell in this particular video. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular topic. Please give me your own expert views, opinions, thoughts, and ideas so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan.